All right, so today we're going deep on something pretty fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
And that is Donald Trump's reflections on his own presidency.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be looking at excerpts from pasted text,
Okay.
which is interesting because it features his own words,
Yeah.
his own insights.
Unfiltered.
Exactly, unfiltered by any media or any spin or
Secondhand accounts or anything like that.
Yeah. So we're really getting like a behind-the-scenes look.
Glimpse behind the curtain. Yeah.
At his time in office.
Okay.
And what's interesting is we start off with something that's kind of a head-scratcher.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe this, but he actually talks about a positive experience
Oh, wow.
that he had on The View,
Interesting.
of all places.
Yeah.
And this is before he ran for president.
Yeah.
But still, it's like you can't help but contrast that with how the media portrayed him later on.
Yeah, it really shows you how drastically things changed once he entered the political arena. Right. It's like night and day compared to his pre-presidential days.
Exactly.
And it really highlights how the media can, the media dynamics can really shift.
Yeah.
Depending on who's in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of spotlights, Trump was deeply skeptical of polls.
Oh, really?
He really had this idea that the media could really shape public opinion and actually swing voter behavior.
It makes you think are those poll numbers really showing what people think, or are they just reflecting what the news is constantly telling them?
Right.
And if you remember that whole basket of deplorables comment, that kind of language from the media probably had an impact on how some people viewed Trump and his supporters.
Right.
Yeah, so it really makes you think about.
Yeah, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's this one story in the text that really stuck with me.
Okay.
And it's where Trump talks about walking into the historical rooms
Oh, wow.
of the White House and just being completely awestruck.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't often see that side of him.
Right. You can really sense the weight of that transition from businessman to president.
Yeah.
Imagine stepping into those rooms knowing all the history that unfolded there.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of the legacy and responsibility that comes with the office.
Absolutely. And that sense of responsibility wasn't just about the building itself.
Right.
He talks about how tough it was even just to put together a team.
Oh, wow.
He talks about how some of his appointees lacked experience.
I can see.
And how there were all these outside forces that were constantly trying to influence things.
It's a classic case of the challenges that come with governing.
Right.
Building a team isn't just about finding qualified people.
Yeah.
It's about navigating all these political relationships, balancing competing interests, and dealing with all that pressure that comes with being in the White House.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is where things get a little heated. We all know about the whole economy versus environment debate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Trump definitely wasn't afraid to take sides on that one.
Okay.
Often prioritizing economic growth over environmental concerns.
This is such a perennial dilemma, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, finding that balance between sustainability and development is so complex.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers, and it really highlights the tension between those competing priorities and policymaking.
Yeah, for sure. And, his approach to the economy was pretty unique, too.
Oh, how so?
Especially when it came to tariffs.
Right.
He really shook things up with that.
Yeah, he definitely took a non-traditional approach.
Yeah.
I remember those tariffs on Chinese goods.
Mm-hmm.
His idea was that they could protect American industries and jobs, but they also sparked trade wars and had all sorts of ripple effects on the global economy.
Right.
It was a bold move and definitely a controversial one.
Absolutely. And, I think all of that kind of ties back into his critique of media bias.
Yeah.
Which he saw as a major force
Interesting.
in shaping public perception, sometimes unfairly.
Yeah.
And I think that reflects, a growing distrust in traditional media that a lot of people feel these days.
You're right. This distrust has fueled the rise of independent platforms.
Right.
Where people are getting their news from sources outside the mainstream media.
Right.
It's really changed the entire landscape of information consumption.
Absolutely. And I think one final point, and I think this is a really key takeaway.
Okay.
Trump's communication style was very direct.
Yeah.
He often bypassed traditional media channels.
Interesting.
To speak directly to the people.
Absolutely. He connected with many voters who felt that his directness was authentic.
Yeah.
A stark contrast to those carefully crafted messages they were used to from politicians.
Right.
Think about his use of Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
It allowed him to circumvent the filters of traditional media and really control his own narrative.
For sure. So, what does all of this mean for us? It seems like, Trump's reflections offer a window into some really critical issues.
Yeah.
The power of media, the challenges of governing, unconventional economic approaches,
right,
and a changing landscape of political communication.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Here's something to chew on.
Okay.
In a world where we're increasingly reliant on independent sources, what does Trump's experience tell us about the future of political discourse and how we consume information?
Yeah, that's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.